Back on HQ, Deion and Shedeur Sanders, coach and quarterback of the Colorado Buffaloes, set for another season after last year's promising campaign faded into oblivion. Conference play was not kind to the Buffs, but Deion is again scrapping with the media, while Shedeur is among the early names for the Heisman conversation after hitting on 69% of his passes, 27-3 touchdown to interception ratio, 4 games with 4+ touchdowns. This is what your Thursday Week 1 slate looks like, and you can see NC State getting a challenge from Western Carolina. North Dakota State out of the FCS is that Buffs opponent. And then there's Utah with Cam Rising getting Southern Utah. Rising having getting back on the field for the first time in some 2 years. Yeah, Colorado will host FCS powerhouse North Dakota State. Bison have won 6 of their last 7 games versus FBS opponents. So let's bring in HQ. College football analyst Chip Patterson and Bryant McFadden. And gentlemen, last year they started 3-0, averaged more than 41 points a game, finished with 8 losses in 9 games, where they averaged a shade under 24 a game. In Deion's first season as coach, there was again a host of roster shuffling. So can they not only get off to a quick start this year, but also sustain the entire season with this new look team? I'll start with you, Chip.
I'm not ready to go sustain, because I don't know if you've seen the back half of the schedule, but the back half of the schedule is loaded. But I do think that the first 6 games are going to allow for Colorado to get off to a good start, starting on Thursday against North Dakota State. I think that Shedeur Sanders and this offense are going to be primed to have a very, very big performance. I like their offensive line so much more than where they were at last year. Everyone's going to talk about Jordan Seaton, the 5-star freshman, but really some of the transfer additions have given them what I think is going to be a lot better play. You throw it in with the kind of wide receivers and what we know Shedeur Sanders can do. I think that the offense is going to have a tremendous game against North Dakota State, because North Dakota State, remember, lost its head coach. Now, what did the head coach do? He left to go be the linebackers coach for Lincoln Riley at USC. Now, that is not always a position that is going to be filled with glamour, though it is in Los Angeles, because we're talking about Lincoln Riley's defensive staff. I just think that we have to downgrade North Dakota State from the program that it was when it won all those other FBS games, and I think we got to know that Colorado wants to start hot. So, yeah, I think that Colorado's in a good position to get off to a strong start for the first 5-6 games of the year. But then I do think there's a reckoning coming at the end of the season.
Yeah, Chip, I agree with you. I think this is a great opportunity for Colorado on a national stage to really showcase a full level of high-level play for 4 quarters. And you talked about the concerns of the offensive line. Heck, they can't get any worse, right? That offensive line was atrocious a year ago. But one thing we learned when you look at how bad their offensive line was, we learned that Shedeur Sanders was the toughest quarterback in college football, because he stood there and he just embarrassed so much physical contact from opposing defensive linemen. So the offensive line should be much improved. The same thing could be said for the defensive line as well, that had issues stopping any opposing offense rushing game. So when you look at the talent, which will be in favor of Colorado, right, this is an opportunity for Colorado, when you look at the atmosphere, the environment, to have all the leverage when it comes to momentum. And they have a top 5 NFL prospect at the quarterback position. That right there should guarantee you at least 20 points just coming out of the locker room. So this is an opportunity for Shedeur Sanders to put up video game-like numbers, and for them in totality as a team to be able to dominate, especially in the trenches. So I love Colorado in this spot. I'm right there with you, Chip. When you look at the talent, when you look at Shedeur Sanders, oh, by the way, Travis Hunter as well, one of the best athletes in college football. They're going to have a nice game tomorrow against North Dakota State.
Yeah, if you watched one too many times last year, that porous line had Sanders dropping back some 20 yards on dropbacks to pass the ball. They are laying some points in this one. The spread is 9.5. The Buffs laying with a total at 58 and a hook. Colorado is the most heavily bet side of any team in Week 1 after they went 1-2-1 last season as favorites. So again, the Bison has some history against the big boys, having won 6 of 7. All that said, are you fading or following Colorado considering that line? B-Mac, what say you?
You know what? I'm going to follow the line, Jim, Chip. And the reason why, Chip, you gave us a cool nugget. North Dakota State, very, very talented team within their prospects, right? And based on the competition they usually play against. But they lost their head coach. So the sense of the foundation that we've watched over the last few years might not be there. Well, might not be there in Week 1. And then when you talk about this opportunity for Colorado, it's a night game. You know it's a sold-out stadium. The momentum, the leverage is already in favor of the Buffaloes. I love Colorado laying this 9.5. Like I said, when you talk about going against Shedeur Sanders, just getting a little bit of protection, it's safe to say he's going to put up north of 27 points on the scoreboard. North, that's a guarantee right there for me. And just for the defense, just getting timely stops, I think they will be able to do so to be able to cover this spread.
Let the children sing. All right, so B-Mac hinted on something that, by the way, I am absolutely following here. Yeah, I'm also laying the 9.5. I think this is a double digits win, but I think that what we see with the offense is going to be the thing that's going to be the bright lights, because this is a Colorado staff that wants to be able to set up Shedeur Sanders to have the best season possible heading into the NFL draft. I think Colorado team total is another thing that I'd be circling, and I'm certainly comfortable with laying the 9.5. So B-Mac, I'm right there with you. I think that the Buffs are threatened only by the mystique of North Dakota State. I think when it comes down to just actually North Dakota State gets off the bus, they're not as talented and they're not as athletic. So I'll lay it with Colorado.
Yeah, you talked about it with regards to that schedule on the back end after the first half dozen games. This is what it looks like for the Buffaloes. You can see Colorado State is again on that schedule, but back end as we get into October, you get some ranked teams on that schedule, including Utah, Kansas, both getting quarterbacks back, Oklahoma State. They got Kansas State on that schedule, so things get awfully tough. You want to get off to a fast start if you're the Buffs this season. So, two quarterbacks return from injuries that have impacted multiple seasons for each. Utah's Cam Rising led the Utes to back-to-back Pac-12 titles in 21 and 22. Takes the field for the first time in nearly 2 years off ACL and MCL injuries, while Kansas QB Jalon Daniels had a shoulder injury that shelled half his season in 22, and he only played 3 games last year because of the back injury. Both ready to go from the jump. What are your expectations for this duo? Chip, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I got to treat him individually. For Cam Rising, we've gotten word that he's been full go and clear for a couple weeks now. Obviously, the matchup is not going to require him to play 4 quarters, but I do think that he is going to be something close to his full functionality, and I think that he'll be able to have a good game that you want from Cam Rising, somebody who we looked at as a real difference maker against the very best teams in the country. But then to pivot to Jalon Daniels, you know, Lance Leipold's having some comments at some of the press availability where he says, yeah, I hope the back's okay. Yeah, we think the back's okay. Jim, you mentioned that, you know, he is cleared, good to go for Lindenwood. But now I start to think about, what do you need to beat Lindenwood if you are the Kansas Jayhawks? Because what you don't need is for Jalon Daniels to do anything that might aggravate a back. And maybe it's just the fact that I'm aging myself and sensitive to back issues, but it does feel like Jalon Daniels is a little bit more of a bubble wrap situation where we are going to get him out there. We want him to get out there with his teammates, score some touchdowns, feel good about himself, but we do not want to expose him to anything that might lead to a re-aggravation of that back injury. So I'm not doubting whether Jalon Daniels can be close to his best form at some point this season. I'm just saying that against FCS Lindenwood, you don't need it. And with something like a back injury, I wouldn't be surprised if they're a little bit cautious.
No question. I'll start with Jalon. The issue for him has been health throughout his time there at Kansas. When he's been healthy, he showed flashes here and there, especially if you go back to the 3 games that he participated in last year. They were 3-0. He completed over 70% of his passes. I think he had around 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. I mean, he was ascending in the right direction, and then, of course, the injury happened. So to your point, this is an opportunity for Jalon just to kind of get his feet wet, don't really show a lot. Just work within the pocket, make the routine plays happen routinely, and get out of the lineup, get on the sideline, and allow the backups to go ahead and finish this game out. Because if you have a healthy Jalon Daniels in play for Kansas, they could be a dark horse team, not just within the Big 12, but in all of college football, because he has that skill set, he has the athleticism, and he has that big play ability. We just haven't been able to see it a lot because he's been more so in the ice tub than on the football field. So I'm to your point, Call this game with bubble wrap around him. I'm okay. You should be able to weather the storm and easily take care of your business without getting the best of Jalon Daniels. Now, when you transition to Cam Rising, I mean, this is why so many people are high on Utah. The thing I like about Utah, before I even get to the quarterback play, they're one of the more balanced teams in all of college football. They control the line of scrimmage on either side of the football field. They're extremely physical, and that defense, they love to bite. They go hunting, play in and play out. And then when you factor in and throw in Cam Rising, one of the more experienced quarterbacks in all of college football, maybe, Chip, the only quarterback that might have just as much experience as Cam Rising is Dillon Gabriel at Oregon. I think both of those guys' freshman year was 2017, 2018, or something like that. But they're still in college football. So with Cam, if he can just stay healthy, remember his last full season there at Utah being healthy, they won 10 games. They won 10 games. So they have more than a fighting chance with Cam Rising. And I can't wait to see what he has in store, knowing that this is his final opportunity to be on the college football field and, most importantly, try to find a way to get his use into that playoff conversation.
As you just saw there, 18-7 as a starting quarterback, just has to stay on the field. Now, week 0 already gave us one case of an FCS team beating an FBS team. Montana State taking down New Mexico, albeit as a favorite on the betting spread. 22 games across the slate on Thursday. Both of you chose a team that should be on upset alert. Let's start with you, B-Mac. Which team has your attention that fits that profile?
Buffalo playing against Lafayette. When you look at this FBS matchup, no question, Lafayette, they got a great chance in upsetting Buffalo. I know right now, depending on where you're shopping, Chip, Jim, I think Buffalo, they're laying 3 points, but this is something that you might want to sprinkle the money line with Lafayette. And the reason why is because they have a talented team. You look at the coach, Jim Trexel, they won 9 games a year ago. That was the most wins in a single season since 1981. And 81 was a great year. You know why? Outside of them winning at least 9 games, B-Mac was born in 1981. So a lot of great things happened in that year. And you look at what they have at the quarterback position as well. Dean DeNoble, a very talented quarterback, very efficient, around 20 touchdown passes a year ago. They have a lot of experience on either side of the football field. And Buffalo, they're just trying to figure so many things out. They have so many pieces to figure out. I think they need to be on upset alert because this is a very veteran, savvy team that's coming into town. They have a lot of confidence. They have a great coach and a great quarterback. And that's a defense. Oh, by the way, a year ago, Chip, they averaged around 3 sacks per ball game on the defensive side. I think some of those trends will follow in tomorrow's night matchup as well.
Ooh, Patriot League, stand up. All right, I'm going to go with another FCS team that I think has a good chance to win, like B-Mac said, because what we have with Jackson State is a program that now, under the leadership of T.C. Taylor, a former Jackson State player himself, has come in and picked up the baton where Deion Sanders left it. And they're going to be playing against ULM. And Louisiana Monroe is now led by Brian Vincent. And similar to the Buffalo situation, we've got a new head coach. And similar to the Buffalo situation, we've got a roster that's turned over. But the problem with ULM is the Warhawks were already at the bottom of the Sun Belt. They were already at the bottom of the pecking order. So when they went to the transfer portal, they couldn't sell the same things. Guys, I do not mean this disrespectfully. It is just an objective analysis. There's a lot of JUCO on this ULM roster, while on the other hand, Jackson State went 7-4 last year, 5-3 in SWAC play. I just think they're bringing in confidence. They're bringing momentum, and certainly, coming down south from Jackson, Mississippi, they are looking to try to get a Southern Fried win here in week 1.
There you have it right there. 2 smaller conference matchups there. BMAC is on the Buffaloes of Colorado, not so much the University of Buffalo. Our thanks to our men in the know, Bryant McFadden and Chip Patterson, talking college football Thursday slate. And this is what you got going on CBS Sports Network. Coastal Carolina, Jacksonville State. They kick it off on Thursday night at 8 Eastern. CBS Sports HQ is where you turn to pregame and post highlights.